Hey everybody, it's Adam DePort, customer service expert, author, and speaker, and I am here with the amazing Phil Gerbyshak. Phil teaches salespeople and leaders to position themselves as an expert in their niche to up their influence, impact, and income. He is the host of Conversations with Phil, and let me tell you, that is a fantastic program. He is also the author of several books, including LinkedIn Daily Dozen, available free to you by signing up for his social selling insights. And I can't tell you, Phil is truly one of the most genuine, nicest guys, and I am so happy to have him here. Phil, what is up?
What's up, Adam? How are you, buddy? It's so great to see you again.
Same. All right, well, let's jump right in. I know you do a lot with social media and sales and customer service, so let's talk about sales first. Can we really expect salespeople to do customer service via social media?
I think not only can we, I think we must expect that salespeople will. Customers are looking for answers. Often customer service is overrun. I'm not expecting salespeople to have the answers, but I do expect that they'll know how to position the question to the right person. So hopefully the salesperson can be the quarterback that helps run that through the organization, because we know that if you want to increase sales, you need happy customers. Referrals means business, more business. So if you're in sales, you need to really think about, okay, so how does this work? Who do I get this to? What's our internal process? And maybe even take some feedback from our existing customers about how does our process stink and how can we improve it? Because a lot of times customers will be honest with a salesperson more than they will be with someone in customer service who they feel they might hurt their feelings by sharing what's really going on.
They don't mind hurting the salespeople's feelings.
Well, they don't tell them, right? Because they're one removed. So it's not like, hey, Adam, you suck. Hey, Adam, your department sucks. It's, hey, Adam, perhaps you didn't know, but I had an interaction with John over here in sales yesterday, or in service the other day, and it didn't go quite right. Or, they have 11 things that I need to fill out on that stupid form before I can even submit a self-help ticket. What the heck's up with that? How come I can just email you and get an answer? So sometimes it's an education thing, and that salesperson can broker in the middle and offer some insight and some buffering to help both the customer and the service team.
So, we're really talking in some ways about omni-channel and that idea of everybody being involved. So let's talk about one of those sort of, it seems like age-old questions now, but it is not, because we haven't been doing this that long, which is, where should social media, where should that department live in an organization? And let's talk about a bigger organization and then maybe a smaller organization.
Well, in a bigger organization, whoever owns the customer journey, the endpoint, should own social media. So if that's where you're getting tickets entered, that's where it should reside as far as ownership goes. That could be in IT. You could have a call center. You could maybe even have a marketing team or some sort of support team that owns that. And then each organization that might get a question needs to have representation. So remember that sometimes those questions might come in for an HR question. They might come in for a service question. They might come in for a sales question. However, whenever that comes in, it's really important that the representation is there. Because if there is no representation, then what happens is then we have one leg of the stool that just falls apart and doesn't buy in to this idea of omni-channel or single point of everybody focusing on the customer experience. And I think that's a big problem. But again, ownership, if we think of that as owning the process, owning the data, owning the purity, I think that resides with whoever owns then that tracking system to get that. And that's typically in a bigger organization. But if we flip that and we say, okay, in a smaller organization, the answer should be somebody in the executive team needs to stand up and say, my team owns this, and I, again, need you to buy in. So whether or not you have ticket tracking or not, somebody has to own that. Down the line, then somebody has to assign that and get that ticket, get that information, whether that's an actual ticket in some service management type solution or whether that ticket is simply just an email, then someone needs to own that and then have that review. We don't know what happened or how well it went or how poorly it went if we don't do some actual review after the fact. So we need to think about that and have those regular reviews so that we can be better at providing even better customer experience for our customers.
Right. I mean, you're talking about closing the loop and basically doing some sort of after action analysis.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Because again, if we don't know what the metric is, first of all, then we're lost. And if we don't know how we did against the metric, then we're lost. So we need those two pieces there. Set the metric. That's the first executive that raised their hand. I'll take it. And then after the fact, that same executive raised the other hand and says, we did it, and here's how it went.
One of the things I don't think you and I have ever talked about, or I've never told you before, is so my father was really into computers back in like the 70s when I was growing up. He was doing, Wang and like basic programming and all this stuff. And one of the things he always said to me was one of the hardest things to find in business is a computer guy who understands business. And one of the things I love about you, Phil, is you're a tech guy. I don't know if you're a computer guy. I don't know what the phrase is now, but you're a tech guy, and you truly understand how to apply all these things. And I noticed that you mentioned, having ticket systems and all that. So maybe let's talk about a little bit about what small organizations are able to do nowadays, because I think it is amazing all the services of software that's available so inexpensively that small businesses can really compete with the big guys on a much different playing field than they ever could.
Yeah, absolutely. So skill routing has been something that big players have done for a long time, understanding who in the organization can answer what. And even as a small organization, if you look at LinkedIn and look at the fact that you have 20 or 50 different skills that are there, now transfer that inside the organization and think of that as the 20 or 50 skills that each person in the organization has, some to a strong degree, some to a less degree. You might say Phil has a skill of 53 in sales and a 37 in customer service and an 88 in Microsoft Office. Well, if a Microsoft Office question comes in, Phil should be taking that question. Or Phil has a 68 in marketing and a 12 in HR. Well, nobody else is available in HR, but we want our customers to get service right now. So perhaps Phil can field the initial triage question and then farm it out from there. So as a smaller organization, that's the first thing you need to do is really take that inventory, those skills assessments of what do your people have? What are they good at? What are they not good at? How strong are they? And then really think about, do we need this stuff? Like, is this a valuable skill? Because you know what? I might be really good at Tiddlywinks, but Tiddlywinks is no longer the operating system. So that's no longer valuable. So we need to have that. The other things that small organizations can do simply is email routing, really simple. You can set up multiple email boxes. That used to be very hard. That's no longer all that hard. You can set that up so that, email questions about one piece of something goes one place, another piece of something goes another place. You can do that based on page on your website and then still have a catch-all email address that then goes again to that group of ownership. Those are simple things. And then really, ticketing systems used to be a $50,000, $100,000, $500,000 investment.
Yep.
Well, now with software as a service, really, you can get spun up. You can probably get 10 or 20 agents for less than $10,000 a year to actually make that work. And there's lots of tools out there. There's even some free ones. You need the trade-off, though, between easy to implement and understand versus the cost. But still, small organizations can compete. You can bring in a consultant to help you draw these things out to make sense of the customer journey so that it makes more sense. Even in a small organization, you can see a lot of savings because one of the hidden costs is wasted time. Because wasted time is opportunity cost that you could be spent doing what your greatest and best value is to the organization instead of, hey, Bob, how do you fix this? Hey, Bob, how do you do this? Hey, Bob, where does this go? So if you spend the time on the front end, you'll see the return on the back end, even as a small organization.
No, that's a great point. One of the things I look at with this, and even coming from small business and retail, is looking at documentation. And it's so, the good news is there's such a range. It's an incremental range of services of software. It's not like you have junk and then you've got to bring in somebody to do your own servers and all this stuff. In your own system. What's cool is, I had one where it was like $50 a month, and all it did, it wasn't even a ticket system, wasn't anything. All it did was give us notes. And just that transformed our service. Instead of sticky notes and paper files, and you're being able to search and see the customer's history. It's a basic CRM. And, it's amazing what's out there. So let's talk a little bit more about tech.
Sure.
All right. So one of the things with tech is how do you basically deal with all the changes in tech, especially large, small, whatever, the changes that are happening. You and I were talking about this offline, one organization that just wasn't prepared for iOS 10, right? And they, their stuff doesn't work now. So talk a little bit about, how do you keep your eye on the ball? How do you adapt? How do you do that cost effectively as well? Because you can't prepare for every possible thing.
Yeah, so it starts really with having a few test machines. So think about what is next. Look at that and see, how does what's next impact our what's now? That's really important. So whether that's iOS 10, whether that's, the coming of the tablet age, whether that's different versions of Windows, whatever that is, you need to think about what is next and how does that impact now? Now, sometimes we can't prepare for that immediately, so we might need to keep some back, a rev or two on the versions, keep that version control and encourage people maybe not to upgrade. I can tell you when Internet Explorer, when they went from, and this is dating me here, when they went from 6 to 8, that was a big deal because they changed the way that third-party plugins would load. So we had a lot of testing that we had to do to make that work. And as a small organization, you start with your mission critical things. Maybe there's 10, maybe there's 20, maybe there's 50. You think about those mission critical things and you test them out. And then to prepare really to move, it's how difficult is this? What is the change in behavior? If it's something simple that perhaps you can push out via group policy, if it's something simple that you can just, hey, by the way, Adam, just click this one button and go ahead and that's going to enable it all, that's great. And that often is easy enough to do. And even in a small organization, if you had to, you could hold people's hands through that. And you might prepare for that by saying, okay, at 4 o'clock on Thursday, we're going to make this change. We expect that it's going to be done by 6:30 or 7. We'd like you to log in at 8 or 9, test it out, or maybe first thing tomorrow, come in half an hour or an hour early, make sure that things work. But you have to test that on the front end. That's really important. You have to test that. Because existing procedures, existing policies may not work on the next rev. Now, if it's forced, and we know sometimes, smartphones, they get forced to upgrade, whether they like it or not. It's a security thing, whatever it is, in which case, then we have to be reactionary. Then we have to say, okay, what broke? What's the impact? What can we do to fix this? And importantly, and often overlooked, how do we notify our customers? How do we let them know? Do we post it on SharePoint? Do we post it on Facebook? Do we send a tweet, send an email? Do we post it on Slack? I don't know. Pick your poison. How do we let people know? And then how often do we update them? So I don't need to know every day that the app is still broken, but I'd like to know once a week, has there been any progress? Simple one-liner, hey, this is still broken. Here's the 4 things maybe that are still broken as a result of our most recent upgrade, and we are going to continue to work on them. The next update will be in a week, in 2 weeks, whenever that is. But the notification process is the one that, especially small organizations, they expect that it's going to trickle out through word of mouth. And frankly, it doesn't. We have to notify people. We have to let our customers know, because otherwise, here's what happens. They waste time. They go, hey, Adam, is this working for you? And then you're right in the middle of something, and you're like, oh, hold on. I don't want to be rude. Phil's sitting next to me. Hold on, Phil. Click, 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 click. Crap, I haven't used that. Oh, no, I got to upgrade. Now this happens. Oh, yeah, that's broken for me too. Doesn't that suck? And now we wasted a whole hour jagging around maybe, and an hour of getting back to work. That switch task cost is high. But at the same time, if people know when things are broken, we do let them know. We do send out a message. Here's where to look for it. And then we can look for updates on Fridays at 3 p.m. via email, Slack, the company blog, a video, whatever it is. Now we've set the expectation for our customers as far as what they can expect from us, and then keep your promises. Often overlooked. If you say you're going to update Friday at 3, then doggone it, update Friday at 3, even if the update is no update.
Good advice. And one thing I would add even is, communicating what do you do until we update? What do you do right now? How do you handle your job and your service. All right. Well, we talked about sort of the back end of computers and tech and all of this stuff and how it affects, the people doing the work. Well, let's talk about how it affects the customers. And one of the things with technology coming from customer service, coming from small business, is just seeing how much technology is between us and our customers now. And that can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. So talk to me a little bit about how people are using it well and how people are sort of dropping the ball and not using technology as well as they should when interacting with customers.
Sure. So I think organizations have done a much better job than they used to about publishing updates in plain layman's English. The frequently asked questions are no longer just written by engineers. Now we have them written by end users. We have them written by customers. We have them written by people that are not as technical as an engineer. So that human element, I think, has really improved, and not to mention, on the IT end, on the customer service end, people have gotten more comfortable writing those articles that are more helpful, because with blogs and social media, people are not as afraid to push publish and then edit later, because timeliness really matters. So I think that's been a big boon for us. As far as customer service goes, I think the other big boon is in the multiple ways that we do communicate things. We let people know not just in email, maybe not just in a Facebook or a SharePoint post, maybe not just in Slack. Maybe we also do a video. Maybe we have a weekly tech podcast. I think the multi-channel approach to providing information, I think, has really gotten improved. And then along those lines, I also think that chat has really helped people, because the one-line question, well, yes, it's an interruption in steady stream of thought. A lot of times our more technical or more customer savvy customer service people really can answer that and then get back a little bit quicker than they could have before, maybe while they're waiting for a system to reboot. Maybe they're waiting for a customer to provide some information. So I think that helps. And then when we flip that over, though, I think chat has also hurt us, because these chat bots, we've over-relied on them because we really don't know how good they are yet. We might have provided some good information on the front end, but then the problem is we don't have a bailout function that says, I need to talk to a human being. This is not a standard function. And we haven't really been transparent with our customers and saying, hey, this is a chat bot. You're not really talking to Phil. You're talking to this fake chat bot here, because we've seen some friction on that. So I think the level of transparency around the bot has really hurt us. I think as we continue to improve the answers and help them be more contextually aware instead of just content aware, and we do keyword analysis, or if this is the format of the question, it's clearly a question of this nature. I think as that gets smarter and as people get more used to that, hopefully something like Facebook Messenger makes it easier to provide that first level of customer service, but it's not done well yet.
All right. Well, that is good advice as always, Phil. I have an IT policy, which is call Phil. That's my IT escape plan.
I appreciate that.
Well, let's, you won't if I actually call. Like, what are you doing? I got other stuff to do. But let me ask you a final question. Let's make it a little more fun. As a customer, what technology are you enjoying most? It could be a company's app, something somebody's been using. What's been a great, technology underpinned customer experience you've had in the last little bit?
Oh boy. So, I really like Buffer app. Buffer is a fantastic app for social media. Last week or the week before, I thought that Buffer was hosing up some of my social media. I had a post that I shared from Buffer on their blog about 10 ways to promote your podcast that I really enjoyed. And I did schedule it to go out a couple of different times. I thought it was that good. There were 10 great points. It was useful. And I scheduled it, and then it went out about 47 times. And I was like, doggone it, come on, Buffer. How does this happen? I'm thinking, because that's my normal app. Well, I tweeted at them. They tweeted back, hey, Phil, it looks like you're actually using a different app. Would it be possible that you're using this other app to also schedule. Well, egg on my face. Yes, indeed, they were right, but it didn't stop there. Buffer went above and beyond and let me know how to disable that other app. They let me know the name of the other app, and then they sent me a message that said, hey, Phil, will you please send us your address so that we can send you some stickers, because we are grateful for the fact that you're a customer and that you interacted with us. So they send me all these stickers, right, which is really cool. And then, of course, being the smart aleck that I am, and I see in their podcast note, one of the things they did with random people is they sent them a pair of socks. Now, anybody who knows me knows that I love socks. I've got tons of cool socks. I've got cool glasses. I've got cool cufflinks. Those are kind of my trademarks. Like, people ask me, what kind of socks are you wearing? And when they see posts about creative socks, hey, they say, Phil, maybe this is for you. And I'm like, well, thank you. That's nice. So I said that. And of course, they responded with, you know what? We only made X amount of pairs. We don't think we have any. If we do, we'll send them, whatever. So 2 weeks go by. I'm on the road every day. And what do you know? I get home, and what do I have in my box? Not just those stickers, but a pair of Buffer socks.
Nice.
Very impressive, because the problem wasn't even theirs. They owned the problem. They found a solution, and they totally delighted me. And I will tell everyone the story of Buffer customer service. Even though Buffer was not the problem, they still fixed the customer. And I give them mad props for that.
That is a mic drop right there. Boom. So, Phil, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and learn more about what you're doing and what you can do for them?
Sure. So the easiest thing to do would be to just go to philgerbyshak.com. That's PHILGERBYSHAK.com. All my stuff links off there. You can download and listen to my podcast, Conversations with Phil, of course, at conversationswithphil.com. You can follow me on pretty much your favorite social channel. I'm Phil Gerb, PHILGERB, on every social network that I can find. If I'm not there and you love it and you think that I should be on it, invite me. Just send me a note. Phil@philgerbyshak.com. Really simple. I'd love to join you on it. I'd love to see what it's all about, because I'm all about social engagement. And then you mentioned my latest book, Adam. If anybody needs help with social selling, go to socialsellingdailydozen.com. My ebook is free. Yes, it gets you on my email list, but I am doing my best to every week provide you with some sort of social selling insight that can help you grow your business, increase your influence, increase your impact, and ultimately increase your income.
That is fantastic, and I can vouch Phil is an absolute expert in this space, so make sure to check him out. And Phil, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Adam.